Morning Exercises, February 8th. And he was there in the prison. Genesis 39:20. Yet he was not there criminally, but under an imputation as false as it was infamous. How little can we judge of character from outward condition! At one time the best people in this country were to be found at the stake or in prison. But it is the cause and not the cross that makes the martyr. Let us see that, like Daniel, we are accused only in the law of God, and resemble Paul, who suffered as an evildoer, even unto bonds, but was so far from being one. Let us beware of drawing upon ourselves deserved reproach or persecution by imprudent or immoral conduct. What glory is it, if when ye are buffeted for your faults, ye take it patiently? And he was there in the prison, but he was not alone there. The Lord was with Joseph. He hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. No situation can exclude God from access to his people or keep them from intercourse with God. Jeremiah found him in the deep dungeon, John in the Isle of Patmos, and Paul on the sea. His people sometimes wonder at this. The experience is beyond their expectation, and they say with Jacob, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. Yet they might know it, especially if it be a scene of distress, for has he not said, I will be with thee in trouble? And he was there in the prison, but he was not miserable there. All was peace within. His rejoicing was this, the testimony of his conscience. How much happier was he in this respect than his vile mistress, who had knowingly belied him, and his brethren who had cruelly sold him. How galled often would they be by reflection and self-reproach! How much happier was he, the suffering slave, than Potiphar, his prosperous master, yea, than Pharaoh upon the throne! Strange as it may seem, this prisoner in this wretched confinement was by far the happiest man in Egypt. But he had the presence of God. This presence makes the fullness of joy above, and this presence here turns a prison into a palace, into a temple. The world marvels to see how Christians are sustained and consoled in their afflictions. But the reason is, they cannot see all. They can see their burdens, but not the everlasting arms underneath them. They can see their sorrows, but not the comforts of the Holy Ghost shed abroad in their hearts. But they themselves know that as the sufferings of Christ abound in them, the consolation also aboundeth by Christ. And he was there in the prison, but he was not there in vain. He was a witness for the God of Israel, and the very manner of his suffering, his temper, his carriage, if he had said nothing, would have impressed all that beheld him. But he would also speak a word in season, and his addresses, enforced by his example, would carry weight with them. He taught the master of the prison and his fellow sufferers, and explained the dreams of the chief baker and butler, and thus raised wonder and gained confidence, which he failed not to turn to advantage. There also he himself at school, and gained much useful knowledge, while the work of the Lord tried him. His tribulation wrought patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. In the prison he was prepared for the palace. By his adversity he was made meet for prosperity. He could well say, "It is good for me that I have been afflicted." He was there in the prison, but he was not there always. Nothing could detain him when the word of the Lord came and commanded his deliverance. Till then he relied on God's promise, but his confidence was sorely exercised. The event was not only delayed, but seemed to grow less probable, and the gloom thickened. But he found that it is good for a man not only to hope, but quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. At length, and not a moment beyond his own appointed time, and not a moment beyond the best time, the Lord appeared, and from prison he steps into the second chariot in Egypt. Christians, the God you serve is continually able to deliver you. If you have his word, lay hold of it, and let it keep your mind in perfect peace, being stayed on him. You have nothing to do with difficulties. Indeed, there are none where the truth of God is concerned. You are believe in God the Father, Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. He turneth the shadow of death into the morning. At evening time it shall be light.